Because of Christmas bonuses, tax deadlines, and general holiday generosity, a huge portion of church giving comes in the final months of each year. But just because folks are willing to give doesn't mean they'll automatically follow through. It's still incumbent upon your church to provide every opportunity for generosity and to inspire your congregation to these next steps. So follow along, and by the end of this episode, you'll have a framework that your church can follow to maximize year-end giving.
Well, hey there, and welcome to Pro Church Tools, the show to help you share the message of Jesus while we navigate the biggest communication shift in 500 years. I'm your host, Alex Mills, joined as always by Brady Shearer.
Not sure if every church leader realizes this, because if you're not involved in the finances of your church, you may not be. But end of year giving is very considerable. A couple of different data points. A big chunk of church donations received at the end of the year, depending on which statistic that you're going to trust. Some say 30% in the final 3 months.
Wow.
Another one I found said 31% in December alone. Another said 10% on just the last 3 days of the year.
Wow.
And the disparity between those three different statistics makes me untrustworthy in any of them.
Okay.
But what we know for sure is a ton of giving happens at the end of the year, disproportionate to the rest of the year. And maybe, every single church is unique. So maybe your church is more like that 10% on the final 3 days. Maybe you're like that third just in December. But knowing this, I think there's a lot that our churches can do to maximize these opportunities. Because what's important to understand is just because your church is willing to give, because of a number of different reasons we'll get to in a second, doesn't mean that they're actually going to follow through.
Right.
Your church still needs to take the steps to give them every opportunity possible, because we see this all the time. Just because someone's willing doesn't mean they're going to do it automatically. Like, we hear that truth all the time. People are willing to come to church if you would just invite them.
Right.
Just because they're willing to do something doesn't mean they'll do it unless you also take a step. So this is kind of like a two-party system. You need someone to have some willingness, but you also need your church to take the steps needed.
Sure. And there are a number of reasons why this end-of-year giving kind of spikes, as we see in these this conglomerate of data points. But, there's a tax deduction incentive. The end of the year is coming, so maybe you want to give a little more to get that tax return in the new year. There's, Christmas-inspired generosity. People are like, hey, it's the holidays. I just want to be a little more generous with what I have. Or maybe you got a bonus from your workplace you have a little more, so you have a little more to give. And so all of these things are often true, but like you said, if we don't explicitly give people an opportunity to lean into that end-of-year giving, maybe it'll happen organically a little bit, but I think there's a big opportunity here for our churches to engage people in the act of giving, or maybe even taking a step of faith, and maybe just hearing, maybe I get that work bonus, and I think, should I tithe off this? And I think, no, I'm good. And then I hear an opportunity at church, and I'm reminded, you know what? I probably should give some of this bonus, and now I've given because I was presented that opportunity.
Think of it like Black Friday. So Black Friday comes every single year, and we are all ready to buy. We are ready to spend. And companies know this. So they create an opportunity, really an irresistible opportunity for us to spend by offering us the best deals that they offer throughout the year. If you as a company didn't do any type of sales, you still might see a spike, because we as consumers are willing and ready to spend. But if you couple that willingness with preparation and a bunch of reasons to spend, that's when you get like the true huge spikes in sales. So let's provide a framework, because it will be very different from sales on Black Friday. Let's provide a framework for maximizing and boosting your year-end giving this year. The first thing is to focus on the big 4 end-of-year dates. Those 4 are Thanksgiving in America, because it's at the end of November, not in October, like Canadian Thanksgiving, our Thanksgiving. So Thanksgiving.
The Lord's Thanksgiving.
Giving Tuesday, which is the day following Cyber Monday. We've been spending too much. We're very guilty, and we need to give back.
Amazing.
Christmas, and then the final 3 days of the year, that trio of days where all the procrastinators end up finally taking the step because they absolutely need to, because otherwise the CRA, IRS, or insert your 3-digit acronym in your country will come after you and not allow you to give and have it as a tax deduction.
They're sitting in a Christmas food coma, and they're feeling a little bit guilty, like, I should have given more this year, but I still got a day.
And you can use that guilt for good. Inspire giving with campaigns. So we're focusing on the 4 dates. Instead of just like a constant barrage every single week of mentioning it, I would do these sprints based around these 4 times.
Okay.
So Thanksgiving, people are already practicing gratitude. Hopefully, Giving Tuesday, which is a day that we've created just for giving. Christmas, of course, and then the final 3 days of the year. Really focus your efforts there. Now, what efforts should you focus? Well, there's a number of different things that you can do. And one that we love is using campaigns. So these are giving efforts that are centered around a specific thing.
Okay.
And the reason that these work is when we as donors can imagine where our money is going towards, it makes us a lot more willing to give, because it doesn't just feel like we're throwing money at this thing that we don't get anything from.
Right.
But it's like we get to partner with you for a mission. When there's a mission, when there's a story, when there's a reason for something, obviously people are much more willing to do it. So came up with a couple ideas. One would be the bonus give back challenge.
Okay.
So this could be for anyone that gets a Christmas bonus. We know not everyone does, and you'd want to mention that so people don't feel left out. But you could do this as an annual thing. But hey, we do this every year. It's called the Christmas Bonus Give Back Challenge.
Yep.
You know, normally we talk about giving, 10% of what we earn to kingdom efforts, but with your bonus, we want to challenge you to give 25%. And this year, that 25% is going directly towards X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
And you can do that as an annual thing, and it's just a little bit above and beyond. People are getting that money that isn't part of their normal budget likely, but now they feel like, okay, it's a bit extra. It might hurt to give 25% normally, but I feel like we might be able to do this with our Christmas bonus.
Yeah, and it's okay to ask for that, to propose it that way, because I can't tell you how many times I've heard testimonies from people when we've talked about giving saying, hey, I really want to thank you for challenging us as a body of believers, because that step of faith, that challenge, when I chose to give according to that challenge, was a step of faith for me. It stretched me in my walk with Jesus, and here's the fruit. Here's what I learned from that. So sometimes people need that kind of challenge to say, how about instead of giving 10% of your Christmas bonus, give 25, right? And that's going to be interpreted as a step of faith for someone, and that could change somebody's life. Never mind the lives you're going to change with that money that your church receives.
So that's the campaign that you could run around Christmas. For Thanksgiving and Giving Tuesday, we'd recommend story-based campaigns where you basically take moments to illustrate how giving in your church in the past has led to material differences in the lives of those who need it most. And we've seen churches do this to great results. Don't talk about how the money went to paying the electricity bill.
Right.
While necessary, absolutely necessary, isn't exactly inspiring for those that are giving.
Yeah.
But if you can talk about how giving went towards, your benevolence fund that allowed to distribute groceries, or in this case, let's say Thanksgiving turkeys to those who otherwise couldn't afford it, and you were able to allow, 24 different families to host their own Thanksgiving meals where otherwise they couldn't have spent on that themselves. That means something. And you can talk about, hey, we've got another turkey date coming up real soon, and if you give towards this, we're going to do this again around Christmas.
Yeah.
You could do that around Thanksgiving or Giving Tuesday. And then when it comes to those final 3 days of the year, a tax deduction focus is what you're going to want to do. People are procrastinating, and you need to let them know, this will not work for your taxes unless you give before midnight tonight. And I would send an email.
It's perfect for an email.
On the 29th and the 30th and the 31st. Give plenty of reminders. It's the holiday season. People are traveling. They're not checking their email as much. You want to make sure they don't miss it, because I'm pretty sure every year someone says, can I still do this? Can I still give?
I don't know. Look at the date.
No.
Is it
this
2019?
doesn't change. Is it 2020? Then no. You're done.
We don't set these rules. Like the Mayans do on it's the calendar. I don't.
Final campaign that you can do, raising money for a certain need in the church. So you could have, let's say, a desire to get a new sound system. And instead of just saying, hey, give extra around Christmas, you can tie that giving to a specific need that people will see in the new year when you buy the new sound system.
People love to see the fruit of what they've given towards.
Absolutely. And if you're using our giving platform, Rebel Give, which you can check out at rebelgive.com, you can create something that we call these custom giving trigger links that can couple with a specific giving need where you can create a hyperlink, and it's going to be like, some URL that people can click, whether in an email newsletter or directly on social media. And when they click on that, the giving flow within Rebel Give will pre-populate a certain amount and or a pre-selected fund.
Right.
So you could try to raise, you could go towards raising money towards a new sound system. And what I would do, to take this to the next level, is I'd get a custom domain with a redirect set up, or create a redirect directly on your root domain of your own website.
Okay.
So for instance, the domain newsoundsystem.com is available right now.
How is that available?
I don't know, but I found it this morning. So
I'm shocked you didn't buy it.
I was like, Pro Church Nation, someone is going to need this one. I don't need a new sound system. Newsoundsystem.com, you could buy that, and you could say, hey, we're raising money for this new sound system. You could talk about the story, inspire people, and then give them that next step. This is our church announcements formula that you can use here. So if you want to give, go to newsoundsystem.com. Someone could go to that, which redirects to that custom giving trigger link that you've set up. And let's say it's $50 and it's already pre-selected to that fund.
Yeah.
And then all someone has to do is enter their credit card information or their banking information, and they can give in like 11 seconds, 4 seconds, however long it might be. And that's how easy it can be.
I love that idea of the pre-selected giving flow. I think it's so smart. First, because it makes giving so easy. If you are in your email, you click on a link that says Give Now. It takes you to a form that's already filled out for you. If you have an account with that giving software, you just click Give or whatever, and it's done. It couldn't be any easier.
Now.
But I also do like the idea of a predetermined amount. We have a pastor friend of ours who did a campaign for new chairs a few years ago, and I forget what he called it. It was like buy a seat or something. But he encouraged his congregation to give, and they wanted new chairs for the whole sanctuary. They're like, well, buy your family's seat. So if you have 4, here's what the chairs are worth. If you have 4 family members, consider giving, times 4 to this fund. And so you could do the same thing. If a chair is worth $80 or something, I want to buy my seat. Click buy my seat. It's already pre-populated for me. Bought my seat. Could it be any easier than that?
So that's a specific feature within our giving platform, rebelgive.com. We do want to mention that, maybe your giving platform can do that. Maybe it cannot, but we do think that's a really cool way to make the experience easier for your users. And like we talked about earlier, you need to have the willingness to give, which you cannot control, but we know it's happening at the end of the year. So you want to take every opportunity to not only inspire people to give, but then to make it as easy as possible. What you don't want is to do all the work and then someone gets there and they see this huge clunky form. It's way too much. And they're like, you know what? I don't have time right now. I'm going to do this tomorrow.
Well, this is around the holidays, right? It's the day after Thanksgiving. It's the day after Christmas. It's these times where you're super busy already. You mentioned earlier, you're not really checking your emails. So if I can get through this in 3 clicks, I'll buy a seat. I'll support the new sound system. I'll get my year-end gift in because you've made it easy for me to do that.
And I'm not suggesting that necessarily someone sees a clunky giving form. It's like, I refuse to give. But what'll happen is it's like, oh, you know what? I actually don't have time for this right now. I didn't realize it was going to be. How many times have you hit a form and you're like, oh, this is more than I thought. Oh, I'll get to this email tomorrow. No. And then they forget because they were so inspired to give in that moment. And then next time they have an excuse for it and then they won't. That's what happens again and again. And that's why the giving experience, it really can make a considerable difference. And we've architected our solution to be as smooth as possible. Oh, and of course, we don't take any of the money that you get.
There you go.
You'll receive 100% of every gift. So go to rebelgive.com if you want to explore more about that. Final 2 things that you can do. Put a card on your homepage. If you're using Nucleus, our website builder, you can put a card directly on your homepage. You can call it year-end giving. If you're going to talk about it for a period of 4 to 6 weeks, which is what we recommend, don't just wait for those final 3 days. Start at Thanksgiving. You can have that page on your homepage right at the beginning of Thanksgiving. So anytime someone visits your website from, end of November through the very end of December, they'll have the chance of seeing that card or seeing that element of your homepage and just being reminded, oh yeah, that is happening. Because the more that you can remind them over those 4 to 6 weeks, the more likely someone is to actually take the opportunity and give, because there are going to be so many people that don't give the first time you mention it.
Right.
And they might not give the second time. But after they hear 2 or 3 announcements about it, and they see it on social now and again, and they've heard this story, and they missed Thanksgiving and Giving Tuesday, but they saw the stories of all the life change that was happening, and then you launched the newsoundsystem.com campaign, and they ignore it the first time, but then they finally see it again, and they're like, you know what? I will give to this. And that's why you don't want to wait until the final 3 days only, Because for most of us, it takes 2, 3, 4. There's that rule of 7 in marketing where you need like 7 exposures to a brand before you're willing to take a next step with them. And giving money is kind of the ultimate next step. So you want to take as many opportunities as you can to capitalize on that willingness. And then when you do get to those final 3 days, you want to delicately lean into scarcity. And you don't want to overdo this because you're a church and it can seem real tacky.
Yeah, you don't want to be begging for money.
But it's okay to acknowledge that there is a very real material deadline of 11:59 p.m. on December 31st, where if you miss that deadline to give, and with digital giving, it's not like you timestamp something. It's very clear. You missed it. You can't go back in time. If you miss it, that donation is not tax deductible.
Right.
So you want to lean into that because you're going to see that biggest spike likely the way we see the biggest spike at the end of our launches on like 11 o'clock on the day the course closes.
What were you guys waiting for? What were you doing?
I don't understand
it's 6 weeks.
I mean, I should, I don't, it shocks me every time.
But here we are.
You'll see the same thing. So send an email, again, on the 29th, the 30th, and the 31st to just delicately lean into that scarcity. Just don't overdo it because it's not worth it and it will come off tacky. 7 ways to maximize year-end giving. Encourage you to follow this framework. Check out rebelgive.com, and that'll do it for this episode of Pro Church Tools. We'll see you next time. And thanks for making it to the end of this video. It means the world. Make sure you subscribe so you never miss another video.
And you know what time it is. Time to like this video. See you in the next one.